like in college, I made a 100 in my, I think it was like my third calculus
You realize
class or
that
something.
you hear her saying she can't add or subtract, right?
But
I don't know how to take this.
it's because I don't use it anymore. I
Then
feel
the
like
public schooling system
feel-
has failed you.
I feel like in order to be good at math, you have to use it a lot. And I don't really use it all that much.
Did you just not work on your math facts? Is that what it was?
No, I'm really good at my math facts.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
9 times 7.
9 times 7 is 63.
I think that's pretty good.
That's really good, right? Do you know your math facts?
Absolutely not. I'm Josh Sigman.
And I'm Bryn Rouse.
I'm a mortgage guy with a passion for helping people with their money and all things business. Bryn is my co-host.
And I'm a marketing girl. I am literally obsessed with it. Oh, and Josh has showed me how to save money. Quite a bit, actually.
Because of her obsession, I hired her to do my marketing.
And we've worked together for 10 years.
We launched Sigman Sense in 2020, a podcast about money. It's a podcast that teaches people how to save more, give more, create wealth, and retire early.
And we recorded and published 34 episodes. People liked it, and it was so fun.
But most importantly, we helped people. So we're excited to announce we're doing a second season. And we're mixing things up. We're moving away from money talks to focus on all things business. Leadership, management, team building, book reviews, hiring, firing, operations.
Motivating teams, lead generation, time management, personality profiling, closing skills.
And of course, money.
And marketing.
We are inviting you to continue this journey with us, and we want your input. What topics would you like to see covered? Email all of your ideas to our podcast email address, sigmansense@gmail.com.
And be sure to click that subscribe button when you visit our channels. You'll get notified when we drop new episodes.
Are you ready? Season 2, Getting Down to Business. Welcome to Sigman Sense. All right, you ready?
Exactly.
Sigman Sense. Here we go.
Okay.
So we're going to carry on our conversation about things you should think about and consider before you open up a company.
Yes, because it's not all
And,
about how
business.
great of an idea it is.
That's right. So where we left off in the last episode, if you missed it, was there were lots of amazing ideas. I think that one of the bedrocks of Americans is the idea that we are entrepreneurial. We have this spirit about us. I hope we don't lose that in the next 100 years, because that's really what put us on the map.
Yeah.
It's this belief system, this opportunity, this optimism, and the unfettered optimism can be a plus. It can also be a curse. And so we spoke last time about the idea of some people just go hard charging, let's figure it out.
Right.
And that can be a mistake. And then there's other people that I've got this great idea and I don't know what the hell to do with it.
What
And
to
they
do?
non-start also. So
Yes.
in the last episode we covered, make sure you do your proper research, make sure that you work on your target marketing, make sure that you've got a clear purpose and vision and strategy for what you're trying to accomplish as a business. And then, for God's sake, take the time, energy, and money to use your own counsel, your own attorneys, your own CPA to help you form the company correctly up front with the people that you trust that are not interested in the company.
That is huge. Huge, huge, huge. Because my guess is that it is the exact opposite.
Most of the time.
You get an idea, then you start recruiting others to be a part of it with you. Some of those turn into investors and true partnerships. And then you go seek counsel on how to set it all up.
Yep. Get it done the right way the first
Yes.
time. So I'm going to give you an example. And I've got, so I was just, what's the best word? Last week I had a friend of mine come to me with a pitch for a bar. Okay? And I've been through this before, and I understand it, and I understand the pitfalls, and I understand the opportunity as well. And I actually believe in this person. I believe in this product. I believe in this idea. I believe in the location.
Which is one thing we talked about in the episode about all the things that you've lost money on, that episode. And it starts with, most of the time, truly believing in the person. First and foremost was what you said. Like,
Optimist,
believe in this person outside of anything. And then if you can get excited about the idea and other things, it's a bonus.
That's absolutely right. Like I do believe in people. So I do in this case, and it's like, and I also want to help, and I think I can help. And the nonstop that came up was not my bookkeeper and no general partnership.
Mm.
Like, and so I was
For you, not you can't use your bookkeeper.
I want like, okay, so let's talk about bars. So you were a bartender. Did you ever give out a free drink?
I did.
Did you ever comp a meal?
Yep.
Okay. So the silent money partner was stolen from.
Yep.
Right? And that's not a negative on you. It's not negative on the it's the industry. It's a norm.
It is.
And so,
you know, and
so
that
all
falls
I
into
care,
comp tabs
right,
and like
absolutely.
who's monitoring the comp tabs.
Right. So what I don't want to have is a person that is able to do what they want, unmitigated, unregulated, uncontrolled, and also use their bookkeeper.
Mm.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
all I would want is, in this case, a second set of eyes.
So
Second
let
set
me
of
ask
eyes
you
that
this,
are
so-
my eyes, my people, watching the money.
Yeah.
And if they tell me it's good, it's good. If they tell me it's bad, it's bad. But what good is that if there's not voting authority?
Yeah.
Because I'm just an investor.
So let me ask you this. And so in the last episode, we ended with, you know, your if it's your idea and then you go and look for investors, get your shit set up with, you know, your attorney, your CPA or whatever. So how do you handle that when you then go to an investor and that is a stopping point, that they want their own people?
Yep. So it depends on what side of the equation you're on. If you're the money person, he with the gold makes the rules.
Okay.
Right? If you are asking, you might have to make concessions if there's no other options.
Or what about finding a third party? Like, it's not your guy, it's
I
not
love
his
that
guy.
because it's number 5.
See,
You're on the right path, though.
I
We're
am.
sinking. That's why we got to keep drinking.
I mean.
Oh, I even said that.
We're sinking and
I
drinking.
want you to like hashtag that, sinking and drinking.
We're sinking and drinking.
Okay.
Oh my gosh,
So-
that is a new hashtag.
So let's talk about this, okay? So the next critical step is you got to understand the finances of the business. Got to understand the finances of the business.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Okay, there's going to be startup costs. How
Mhm.
expensive are they? There's going to be carrying costs. How much does it cost in survival mode? No different than a personal family budget
Right.
to keep this freaking operation running
Right.
without going bankrupt. So do I have enough money to last 6 months? If I think it would be profitable in 5 months, you better have 12 because, you know, the principle is that, you know, whatever can go wrong is going to go wrong.
Will go wrong.
So it's not going to be like
And things
there
will
were
take
business
longer.
owners that opened bars January of 2020. There were.
Yeah,
and
of course.
there were some people that had a mountain of cash behind them to last 2021. And there were a few small restaurants and bar owners that opened their company with 3 months reserves. And COVID happened and they're out of business.
and they're out
It
of
is what it is,
business.
right? So
and we talked about this too in season 1 with if it's a startup and you ask to see like what your projections are, what your plans are, they are literally just speculation.
Yeah.
It's a startup. There is no, you can absolutely make educated guesses and put your marketing plan behind it. And based on if we do this, then we should see about this. But there is no proven track record. So you have
for a startup, that's
for
true.
a startup.
Yep.
So you have to really err on the side of caution.
Yeah, it's very like best laid plans. Here's the thing. You could have the best widget, gadget of all time. And if you don't have enough money to get it off the springboard to a profitable status, it's never going to be worth anything. It's never going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So when I say like understanding finances, think staying power.
Okay.
Think staying power. So, okay, I've got to come up with X, which means I'm probably have to give up some ownership if I don't have the money. Give up some ownership for some financiers to come in and give me the money to start it up. That's not enough. A lot of people short themselves. Oh, I need only $300,000 of equipment, so I raise $300,000. Well, that's great, but do you have any employees at all? Would you like a salary that you're like you don't have a salary because you're working on this every day of your life? What's that salary look like? What's the overhead? What's the expenses? What's the taxes? What's all those things, right? So it's not just the startup. It's how many months are set aside to get this off the ground. This is where, going back to step 1 from last episode of research and step 2 of understanding the industry, there are for sure metrics of successful businesses in your space.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There for sure are. If you just refinance,
refinance.
that's the mortgage brain. If you just research it, right?
Yeah.
So For example,
it's a great point.
going back to the bar owner that approached me last week that I'm considering and gave me a pitch. Here's what's different. He actually approached me 5 years ago, actually 4.5 years ago, to open the first one. Well, that one's still around.
Okay.
So is the second one safer?
I would think so.
You would think so. Here's why. Because I can literally go back and look at the books, which I've requested and reviewed, to see what year one looked like, what year two looked like, what year over year looked like, what COVID looked like, what the cash reserves looked like.
Different city or same city?
Regional. Same
Okay.
region.
Cool.
Same region. So the whole point is that when I looked at it, it's like, you know what? There's a track record,
Right.
albeit not profitable, not profitable, not profitable. Crushed it. Interesting enough, during COVID, crushed it.
And very interesting.
Right? In a subpar location compared to a prime location. In a unproven name compared to a now
a
a
little bit of something.
4-year name. 8 miles apart, by the way. In a guest expenses, finish out, and concept versus a proven concept.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see how this is an example of, in my case, I just researched the last one that they did.
Right.
But there are other bars with similar concepts, most likely. There
Right.
are other widgets with similar concepts somewhere. So finding those and researching those are really helpful. But
so why? Let me ask you this. And I know we talked about this also in season 1, but what is the need for an investor at this point?
the specific instance.
Yeah, or in any
So,
instance, so they're not
profit-
making enough money
Right. So
to then.
So great question, and I don't want to speak to this specific.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
situation.
It doesn't have to be to this one. Just in general,
Right.
So
So, and this is, I'm being very clear, this is not this specific instance. So
Right.
if anyone draws the dots, it's not specific.
Yeah.
Okay. The answer is the same reason why there are people that have a $500,000 salary that have no money in the bank.
Okay.
So they have plenty of income, but they spend it all, right?
Yeah.
So just because you're making money does not mean you're keeping money.
Keeping
and
money.
the upfront investment to get most companies off the ground is typically substantial.
Mm-hmm.
So the question being, why would there be a need? It's not because it's not profitable. It's because it's not been profitable long enough to save enough.
Okay.
Make
And
sense?
so, what is the difference in going to you or any other private money investor versus a bank?
Great question. So let's keep diving into this because
'Kay.
this is all about understanding the finances, right? So specific to banking, most banks. So I'm giving general statements because there are small business loans, SBA loans. There are private investor loans. There are venture capital loans. There are lots of ways to finance businesses. Okay, which I don't want to dive into them all too deep because then it confuses people. But a typical bank loan needs a proven concept, a proven commodity, or a strong balance sheet of an individual.
And of the individual.
Yeah. Well, like,
Does that mean
what
that
is a
personal
bar?
finances?
If a bar owner or a golf, like a driving range owner or a widget maker, if they rent the space, pay for product out of cash flow, or an S corp, so they literally have to take literally every dollar out of profit at the end of every year. So there's no cash left in the business account at the end of the year. Then is it a secured asset or is it an unsecured asset?
I don't know.
Secured means I can go get your money that I can see in that bank and I can attach a lien against your house. Like a
Okay.
mortgage is a secured loan. So why are rates so fucking low? It's because I'll take your house.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
Like, if you don't pay it, no problem. We'll take your
We'll
house and
take the
sell
house.
it and get the loan back, right?
Okay.
If you get a line of credit against your retirement account,
Right.
no problem. You
We'll
don't
just
want to
take
pay it, I'll just sell your stocks.
So you're yeah.
So low risk, low reward to the lender.
Okay.
Low reward is lower rates. So everyone wants to go get a bank loan or an SBA loan, which is ideal. But if there's no individual balance sheet or business balance sheet that
or
is
a plan, don't you have to have a
separate of the plan?
Separate. Wow.
If there's no individual balance sheet or business balance sheet that has actual assets that the bank can take, the bank says fuck off.
Gotcha.
Right?
So then in some cases it's easier.
Well, so then you go to the second step, right? So you got bank loan option ideal, right? Or your personal line of credit ideal. Then you go to an individual investor.
Right.
So you find a money guy. Well, what's the average return on the stock market in S&P 500 for the last 30 years? 8%, 9%. I think it's 8.9% literally, off the top of my head, 8.9. So I would never invest in something that's a gamble
for less
to hit the average of 500 companies that are proven commodities.
All right.
So if it's not going to be 9%, I'm charging you 12, 15, 20. So that's less than ideal, but why the hell would I do it for less than that?
Okay, so if you loan somebody money to start a business, you're charging them interest?
Of course.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, absolutely.
I thought you were just waiting on your profit share to come in.
So again, going back to a financial investor, you can invest and ask for interest, like being a private money lender.
Okay.
Or you can invest as a partner waiting for profits. So the second option I'm referring to is a private money investor. Okay.
Gotcha.
So an example is that I bought some property to help develop. The bird dogs that found the property did not have the ability to stroke a check, but the value of that property was 5-fold because of who they were selling it to. But to get from here to there, they didn't have the money to stroke the check. They didn't have the financial backing. So I wrote a check and I charged 20%.
Okay. Gotcha.
And if I can get 20% securitized against land, why wouldn't I do that?
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Especially land that I know is worth what they bought it for in the first place.
Sure.
So if you don't want to pay it, awesome. I'll take the land. It's worth it, and I'll do it. Right?
Okay.
So private money investors is what that's talking about. And guys, I'm not big into, and I really do say this from the bottom of my heart, like there is a point where it's what's called predatory lending, right?
Yeah.
So I personally don't believe in and have stopped doing like hard money loans. I've stopped. Like as a younger man, I did hard money loans because I understood the need and I could do it. I don't do those anymore because what I recognize is that the people that need a hard money loan are unlikely most of the time to be able to get out from underneath it, right? So I never once, and the only thing I'm proud of there is I never once foreclosed ever. I always worked it out, right? Yeah. But so there's a opportunity versus being opportunistic. And I think there's a big difference, right? So in this case I just did with this development, I know the guys that are doing this with me are going to make like $7 million.
Okay.
Like the 20% will be hair off the top.
Right.
It is not the squeeze. It's just a little bit of fluff, right?
Yeah.
It's like the froth, right? Yeah. So, but that's what I mean by having a private money lender. Okay. So then you go into an investor. And an investor believes in the business, believes in the opportunity. And if it's a private investor, they're going to stake their own money. They might have to stake it to get the loan to be able to finance it or whatever, but they're going to get a percentage ownership of the company. Okay? Like, why wouldn't they do that? Like, if I'm not going to get interest, if I'm not going to get a monthly return on my money, then why would I invest in your company unless I'm investing in the long-term payoff because I believe in what you're selling me?
Because I believe
you're pitching me, and I'm saying, you know what? That is the damn best widget of all time.
Yeah.
I think this widget that we can build for $2, I can sell for $50 in about 2 years. So let's build the freaking widget.
Got it. Okay.
So it's worth waiting 2 years because I'm going to get a huge return, as are my partners, right?
Sure.
So very much a win-win if structured appropriately with the right attorneys, right?
And so when in this scenario are the terms or the time frame of when you will see your money back established?
100% negotiable.
Okay.
which is weird to think about.
Yeah. Like, how long are you willing to wait to start seeing a profit?
Yeah. Well, think about this, okay? And this is a little asterisk for people that understand taxes more. So, long term. So I'm recording this right now in the summer of 2021. So last year, 2020, the long-term capital gains rate was 25%. Okay, not a big deal. If you are in a tax bracket that's higher than that, so if your tax bracket is 30, 40, 50%, then it's a fucking deal to have a long-term capital gains rate of 25%. Okay. Well, right now in legislation, it looks like there's going to be a look back to April, that long-term capital gains for people over a certain income will be at the full tax rate. Full tax rate being whatever it is. So whether it's 44 or 45 or 48 plus whatever your state tax is, you could be paying literally 50 cents on the dollar for long-term capital gains. Okay. So if I'm an investor that doesn't need the return, the money to pay my bills, then it's not a bad idea for me to put money away in a company I'm going to believe in,
right,
that's going to grow for me, that in 5 or 7 years, I might hit a big payday that I should hit a big, or I wouldn't invest in it,
right,
hit a big payday. But I've got a couple more years to go by before I hit the ticket and pay capital gains. So I don't care about the cash flow. I don't want to pay real income tax. I'm hoping that the next president goes back and repeals. And by the way, this isn't a political statement, but
sure,
as a rich person, I believe like you should have decreased capital gains. It encourages investment, which encourages industry, which encourages job creation. All those things are good things to pay for all the bullshit out there. And all the good things too, but all the bullshit that comes with it. So if I can put money away and defer it for 5 years for hopefully another president, don't care what side, to get back to a normal way of taxing long-term capital gains, that would be a great reason to not care about getting the return annually. Does that make sense?
Yes, it absolutely does make sense. And so I think the asterisk too is you also have to be willing to lose it all as well in this situation.
So you're now asking from a perspective of being the investor.
Being the investor.
Right. So I know this is geared towards you're starting to own it.
It is. Right. It is. And it's
so
more of a money.
Right. Be really clear. If you have an entrepreneurial spirit and you are starting a company and or you are investing in a startup company, do not stroke a check you are unwilling to lose all of.
All of it, yeah.
All of it.
Okay.
Separate of the hours, separate of the heartache, separate of the sleepless nights.
Right.
And that is the buyer beware. But I got to tell you the flip side. The flip side is when you create something that lasts and that you're proud of.
Yeah.
And money comes with it, which is a great response also.
Yeah.
That's why entrepreneurs stay in the game.
Yeah.
But there's very few entrepreneurs ever that didn't lose a lot before they hit it.
Yeah.
Like they tried and they lost. They tried and they lost. They tried and they failed. They tried and they failed. And then they finally hit the big one. And so, but they were all willing to take the risk, and with the risk comes a reward.
Sure.
People that are listening, 60% of this world is steady Eddie, and safety is key. So this doesn't apply to you. But again, going back to if you're thinking about it, this is something to consider.
Absolutely.
Don't stroke a check that you're not willing to risk. I'm going to I'm going to defer. I'm going to go down a tangent here.
Okay.
Because I think it's very worth talking about. So I'm going to speak to all of you out there that have gambled already and you've won. You're already winning. You're already ahead. You're already doing something the right way, whether you're in...
Oh, I thought you were talking about like actually, like you've gambled before and won.
You started a company...
My $400 hand.
Right. No, I mean like you've started a company and you're in year 5. Maybe you're not blowing the socks off everybody, but you are in business still, which is a win by itself.
Maybe is a win by
you're
itself
in commission, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're still able to pay your bills.
Mm-hmm.
So you're winning. One thing there's a book, and I'm going to reference it because my buddy Jordan Monroe. So I like talking about my buddy.
Jordan.
Hey, Jordan. So Jordan sent me a book through Audible, which I'm looking up real fast in my little queue.
Oh, is it in your queue?
Yeah, because I've listened to it once. I'm listening to it a second time right now.
Oh, you like that? You like how he asterisked that?
You can see it. I'm already listening to it.
Do you know why we're laughing at you?
What I do?
Because you asked if I made me feel like a shitty reader when I have
cute.
stuff in my queue.
Oh shit. Well, I don't have cues. I'm just listening. I'm listening to it again. Anyways, funny. So the rest of the world will wonder why they're laughing because it's stupid.
He remembers if he called me a shitty reader.
You are a shitty reader. But the book is called The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. So here's what the concept is. So I want to kind of rewind the clock. So, and Brenda, actually, you'd really enjoy this book. You really would.
Yeah, it's probably in my queue.
I'm sure it is. It's like behind number 77. So what the Comfort Crisis is about, so I want you to think about it. So I'm a business owner a couple times over, right? Day one, minute one, I'm 22 years old, and I decide to go be a commissioned 100% loan officer, right?
Okay.
I had nothing to lose. So I was willing to do anything.
Yeah.
Like from a risk tolerance perspective.
Yes.
Why don't I try buying leads? Why don't I try investing in this?
Why don't I try talking to the gas station line?
Why wouldn't I call in the number one loan officer or realtor in Texas? Like, there's nothing I wouldn't do because the worst case scenario is it's no, and I had nothing to lose, right? Like if I go out of business, I'll just go do something else. I'll go mow lawns for a living, right?
Yeah.
Like I had nothing to lose. Well, that spirit that got me off the ground and has gotten me really far in my life, at some point, I had something to lose. Mm-hmm. So that number is different for everybody.
Right.
Salary, commissioned, owner, or otherwise, there becomes a point where we hit, it's like, holy shit. Like, if I lose this, I lose it all. Mm-hmm. Right? Losing $1,000 was not a big deal if that's all I had to lose.
Do you remember having like that actual thought, or do you think it's more subconscious in the way that you
subconscious?
Okay.
Because you start to recognize all of a sudden your bank account's building. On top of that, you've got families that are growing. So now I'm responsible for not just me.
And
like I can eat ramen.
Right.
I'll be damned if my kids eat ramen every night.
Right.
Right. Like there's a different thought process.
And there's kind of like a baseline that you're just not willing to go under, because if you go under that, now you're starting to risk your family's safety and protection and all of that.
Absolutely. And so my point here for everybody is that the risk is highest the youngest we are. That's why I really, truly believe 30-year-olds rule the world. Mm-hmm. The reason why 30-year-olds rule the world is because they've not been, they still dream like the world's an oyster, right? They still think they're invincible. With their levels of testosterone and estrogen that 50-year-olds just don't have. Yeah. But on top of that, they haven't been jaded yet by enough knockdowns in their lives.
Right.
So, and they have nothing to lose. So let me finish this thought process. The thought then becomes, okay, so subconsciously or otherwise, we stop taking the risks that was totally fine 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago.
So interesting.
And so we started to become complacent, comfortable. That's what's called the comfort crisis. Mm-hmm. And what the book talks about is you've got to put yourself constantly into uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
So Jordan recognized, because Jordan's one of my best friends in the world. So Jordan, I love you. In a bromance kind of way.
Hashtag bromance.
And Jordan asked me to read this book. And so within about 2 weeks, and so now you're going to laugh looking back on it, you'll understand why. Within 2 weeks, I did two things. Number one is I signed up for a physically demanding, super uncomfortable rim to rim to rim for the Grand Canyon. And normally it's done in 3 years. I'm going to try and do it in a day. I'm going to do it in September. And that's
3 years?
It's usually a 3-day trip.
A 3-day trip. Okay.
Yeah, it's usually a 3-day trip. Like if you Google it, it's a 3-day trip. Okay. You usually hike down the bottom.
And what's wrong with doing it in 3 days?
Because that would be camping, and I'm looking for being uncomfortable. That's the whole point of the book.
Getting there would be uncomfortable, right? Like the art of like.
Well, the preparation
for
sucks.
This?
Well, I'll tell you this much: my daily routine with my personal trainer is night and day.
Right.
Like our intensity level.
Correct.
Are like never missing anything ever.
So
all
that's
changed.
Not enough.
But my point is is that
Just
happened
wanted to
within
be clear.
right within 2 weeks. I was like, okay, I'm gonna sign up for this to be super uncomfortable physically, and believe it or not, the biggest investment of my life, I agreed to within 2 weeks as well. And I'll tell you about this because this is this development deal we've talked about a few times in a few episodes. Okay, so I know mentally, like intellectually, I can afford the investment.
Mm-hmm.
Like I literally, like I know I use my own attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm protected. It's going to be okay. I will make either I'll either get my money back or I'll absolutely, like literally hit a field goal from 100 yards. Like it's one of the, I'll get my money back, worst case scenario, or I'll crush it.
Okay. That's a good
so
place to
intellectually, it's like, of course you do that. If I describe that investment to you, of course you do it.
Yeah.
Yet I've never asked my wife permission to ever do an investment ever.
Oh, wow.
Because she trusts me in what I do.
Of course.
And last Monday, I sent the biggest wire of my life. Okay. And this is when I knew I was uncomfortable. So in the morning of sending the wire, I called Christy 3 times. No, I called her 3 times. I said, hey, I just want to let you know it's a big number. This is what I'm wiring. Are you okay with it? Yeah, I trust you. Like 2 hours later, I'm driving. I was like,
need for you to
hey,
know.
like, am I missing anything? Is this, am I being stupid? Is there any like red flags that you've seen? No, babe. Like, I trust you.
Oh my God.
I'm literally at the bank. I'm signing paperwork for the wire. Call Chris is like, hey, just want to let you know the wire's about to go out. And she said, Josh, the fact that you've called me 3 times is what's concerning, not the fact that you're doing the deal. You're smart. Right. You can figure it out, right? And that is what the book talks about, which is at my net worth level, doing a $5,000 investment in a stock is a waste of time because it doesn't move the needle.
It doesn't move the needle, yeah.
And so when you think about what we were willing to do at the beginning, slows down risk aversion of risk happens. It's about staying in that uncomfortable state of mind, which will promote that growth. And when you think about like Elon Musk that everyone's aware of, right? One of my favorite things I've ever heard of anyone ever that, like, I don't really respect Elon as a, I shouldn't say, that's the wrong word. I never looked up, that's a better word. I never looked up to Elon as a human, right? But where I respect Elon is as a visionary. And where I like began to honor Elon Musk is based on what he said. And I want to tell you what he said. So he became, for a moment, the richest man in the world here in 2021. Yeah. Okay? Yes. And he didn't even know. Why? Because he didn't give a fuck.
Right. It's not
right?
being he's going to put... That's not the goal. That's not his goal. He's
an intergalactic, planetary... Right. That's who he is. And so a news person confronted him and said, hey, how does it feel like to be the richest man in the world? He said, what? He said, yeah, you're now worth more than Bill Gates, and here's your net worth according to blah, blah, blah. He said, I am? He said, yeah, what are you going to do? He said, well, shoot, I better get back to work. Right? Like, that's a different mentality. That guy stays growing, grinding, dreaming big, regardless of his income, regardless of his net worth. I think that's a really great thing to think about when you're building a business. Yeah. Like, how do you stay in that massive growth mindset? Yeah. Which I faltered in years past, and I'm back into like, let's think a little bigger.
Well, because it takes more than just being ambitious, right? Like we just finished talking about, you really have to overcome some of the obstacles of what you go through as you build more, what you go through as you have more to lose. And they're first of all, they're real, but they're real, you know. It's like, it's not just that you're getting complacent or that, you know, you lose your drive as a human. It's that you're really worried about and trying to protect things that are super important to you.
Which makes sense, right? Yep.
So that's why it makes it even more interesting to continue, you know, fighting through some of those things and making sure that you pick what's worth it.
Yeah, and it's so much fear is around money. We've talked about that so much in the first season. Like I think we said every other episode talked about emotions of money.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so this step that we want to move past here in a second is when I say understand your finances, you got to understand what's at stake. You got to understand what is needed. You got to prepare for worst case scenarios. You've got to understand where you hit profitability, how many months it's going to take, what are the carrying costs, what is the startup costs, plus 20%. What is the cost of using a bank? What is the cost of giving up partnership?
Yeah.
Right? Like giving up 20% of a $10,000 company, not a big fucking deal.
Right.
But that $20,000 company that turns into $2 billion, big fucking deal. So what are you giving up for what money you're receiving? Like there's a lot of things that you have to consider when I say understand the finances. This is where whether you like budgeting or not, budget. Whether you like profit and loss or not, learn it. Whether if you don't want to do either, hire a bookkeeper or a CPA to educate you. Especially when you're starting a business, get that done early and often and make sure that you trust the source. Like get references. Don't go for what's cheapest. Go for what's best. I'm telling you, the bigger your company becomes, the rounding errors by a CPA or a bookkeeper are super expensive. So I coach a lot of local people, a lot of realtors locally, a lot of people nationally in their finances. And there's this woman that I love and adore who's a business partner of mine who allows me to look at her profit and loss every single month. And she'd never had before. She's been a hugely successful realtor for the plaques for years. Like always hit big volume, big volume, big volume. Before I coached her, didn't realize that marginal profit, marginal profit, marginal profit. And so we've been working on it. She's become massively profitable, more efficient, cut some expenses, doing more volume, absolutely crushing it. So and it turned in her P&L to me last month. And when I got the P&L, I looked at it. And because I look at it every month, it took me 3 minutes. I said, something's wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it because I'd looked at it for 3 minutes. I just called her up and said, something's wrong here. I said, your volume and units went up by 40%, but you're making the same amount of money. I'm telling you something's wrong.
Something's inaccurate.
So she called up her bookkeeper, said, rerun the numbers, and oops, carried forward a couple numbers from the previous month, left 40% profitability on the table.
Oh, no.
If she had just gone by that, she would have underpaid her taxes, and she would have had a tax bill in the future that she wasn't expecting if they ever caught it. If she got audited, it'd been even worse because of penalties that go with it. Bottom line is that there's a difference between getting somebody to hand you the numbers versus understanding the numbers.
Yeah.
So even when you have a CPA or bookkeeper or a CFO that does the money for you, you need to learn it. You are a business person, learn business acumen, right? So let's move on to the next step.
Okay.
Because this ties right in the next thing, which is understand your tax implications, right?
Yeah.
Like making money is great. Paying taxes, not great, but necessary.
Yeah.
Required, right?
Mandatory.
Mandatory. Well, shit. I do believe in being generous as a human, and there's plenty of people that don't have, and we take care of them. I believe in that. It also doesn't mean that give away too much money because you didn't write off what you should have written off, right?
Yeah.
So, but there are certainly things like state, federal, and regional taxes. There are licensing agreements. There are, what's another example of a taxation cost of business? A franchise payments monthly. So you got to understand when it is, what the frequency is. Lots of people that come from a salary job never think about it because taxes come out before the paycheck hits the bank.
100%,
right?
Yeah.
So understand that when you're a LLC or an LP, that usually becomes a quarterly requirement. So now you're stroking a check that wasn't withheld. So do you know what the liability is? Did you set that money aside? Are you prepared to set that money? So if you have $10,000 that hits your account in receivables, profit. I said receivables, but profit. Like, did you say, fuck yeah, $10,000 to the Sigman bank account? Let's go spend it. Or do you think, well, my CPA said that 44% of this goes to federal taxes,
right?
And there's no state tax in Texas, so come on here, we're a fun state, and so I need to set $4,400 into a separate account every month for the next 3 months. I'm setting $15,000 to federal taxes on a quarterly basis. based on what my CPA tells me, if you don't understand what the tax implication and liabilities are, then you could have a great idea, a great business, a profitable business that goes out of business because the IRS will get your ass.
Yeah.
They'll get your ass.
Yeah.
So don't skip that step of understanding what are the tax implications associated
you really got to know. Like, you really got to, yeah.
Which comes down to a 1 hour, $100 conversation with the CPA. You'll get a good idea.
To tell you exactly what to do.
1 hour, $100 conversation.
I love that you're like quantifying that, because all I'm hearing is
thousands
I'm out.
of dollars.
I'm hearing I'm out.
A 1 hour, $100 conversation
so
with a
much.
CPA will tell you what your liabilities are.
So is there like a thing where you could just sell your good ideas to people for like lots of money?
Depends how unique it is. Sure, absolutely. Absolutely.
Who do you sell them to? Like investors?
Well, you better go back to the research piece and understand what your target market is.
Yeah, I was really good from points one through 3.
Oh, it's 1 and 2 and 3?
And 3.
And then 4 and 5 are like, fuck this shit. I'm out.
I'm out. Peace.
Which goes back to, I love that we're talking about this because this is honesty, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
You're an idea person. You're creative.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
have things all the time. And it's interesting, like, as we keep working through this, maybe we will open a company together. You never know.
Never know. But this is where I start to
it's super interesting. Like,
it's like snooze fest.
And what's really funny is, like, I always figure, okay, idea I'm good with, strategy I'm good with, research, have somebody else give me a report on it, finances, I'm in.
You're in.
Professional conversations, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, and then the next couple of steps we'll hand off somebody else again. It's funny. The yin and yang. That's why we've worked together so well for 10 years.
It is very interesting, which I think, too, when you're looking at, a partnership or an investor or whatever, and maybe I'm wrong, but, this is what you kind of look for, right? Like, you want somebody that has your opposites.
Oh, dude. I went to a class years ago, and I remember them saying, the whole idea of, like, too many chiefs, no Indians.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if we're allowed to say anymore. Are we allowed to say anymore?
No
I don't think so. Too many captains, not enough sailors.
Yeah.
Too many captains, no sailors.
Yeah.
That's good. By the way, my wife is part of the tribe, so we're all good here. Cherokee Indian. I just never. I wish she had like. I wish we were more involved in that, but regardless, too many captains, not enough sailors, right? So when we go down this road, then after tax implications. The next thing, and probably the last, like, put your brakes on thing. Like, this is the last, like scary to death, stop you, right? It's just the finality of what's at stake. What am I risking?
Yes.
Like, what is the real risk here? Okay. So let me give you some examples of things that people think about but aren't prepared for. You got a friend of mine that opened a roofing company. Seems pretty damn straightforward.
Yeah.
Right.
As most do.
As most do, right? It's like if you have somebody who can swing a hammer and you can afford to buy the shingles.
Well, not just roofing companies. I think, even going back to the batting cage example, it's like seems straightforward enough. Like it's a warehouse.
Right up until somebody gets hit in the head with a baseball.
Right.
And dies.
And that actually crossed my mind when we were talking about the risks and what kind of like coverage and stuff you need. It's like, yeah, it turns out they're flying 70-mile-an-hour baseballs.
Kill people.
In small spaces.
Swinging baseball bats.
Baseball bats.
By children.
Yes.
They're not smart. They just hit people. Right?
Correct.
So when I say this for real, it's like really assess what the real risk is. And it's almost never what you think it is. It's always way more.
Oof.
Right?
Yeah.
So think triple damages. Think insurance, think liabilities. Like I'm an investor in real estate, right? I have to carry a couple $1 million policy for not only errors and omissions, but also for an umbrella policy because God forbid somebody stubs their toe in my house and sues me, right?
Yes.
So it's not as simple as make money on, here's my mortgage, here's my rent income.
Right.
Somebody could still trip and fall down the stairs and die, and then somebody's litigious in this society and sues me.
Right.
So I've got to understand what that risk is and am I willing to accept it. More importantly, not just understand the risk, but how can you hedge against it? Is it possible to remove all risks? No.
No.
If you own a bar, somebody can be overserved, drive home and die.
Yes.
If you own a business, somebody could drive your company car and be drunk and kill somebody
Right.
whose family sues the company because it was a company car.
Right.
So you can go down the line and say, just assume worst case scenario for a moment
Right.
with a professional
What does
to
it look
think
like?
through what else is wrong. The other thing that's really out there that you got to consider is whose nuts are on the line, proverbially, when it comes to the finances.
Yeah.
So Dan and I were, let me back up. So Dan and I were partners with a different group of people 10 years ago, okay? And it was all great. Our company was literally growing from $100 million of loan volume to $700 million in loan volume.
Mhm.
So in mortgage world, that's small. It's not a big business. And so as a result, the banks that were funding our loans made us all have a personal guarantee on those loans.
Gotcha.
So we're signing off saying that, hey, don't worry, if we can't sell this loan, we'll pay for it,
Pay
right?
for it.
Well, like I said, 70 million to 700 million is a small mortgage company. It's huge for an individual. So literally for that whole time when we were building that mortgage company early on, and Dan took the majority of the risk, it was not me. But the bottom line is that if at any point during the mortgage market meltdown or any other reason a employee rightfully and correctly sued and won a employee lawsuit, a client correctly and accurately sued a loan officer that worked for us that we didn't know was committing fraud, they committed fraud, could they have, at any point, that could have been a buyback scenario where we were personally guaranteeing with our net worth the loan times thousands, right? So what's really at risk? Everything if it's a personal line. So this is where you get into, is this a limited credit line?
Yeah.
Is this when you have limited liability partnerships, are you limited to your personal investment, or past that? Are you gonna have a cash call? Like you're putting money in right now. A lot of people will invest money in companies thinking, here's 50 grand or 500,000, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Not understanding that if there's a cash call to keep their ownership, they're participating at that 1% ownership or that 50% ownership, depending on what it is, right? So when you go down the what's at risk, when you think about what insurances can I purchase to mitigate the risk, what investors can I bring in that will put their name on the line to keep my family's name off the line.
Okay.
Those are things you think about.
And so who is the best person to advise you on that? Is that going to be your attorney?
Attorneys again.
Okay.
Attorneys again. Always attorneys in this case.
And what kind of an attorney are you looking for? Are you looking
There
for
are contract attorneys there's straight business attorneys. The truth is you never want to go when you're getting into risk assessment. Typically, defense attorneys have been up against it all.
Yeah.
Corporate attorneys for sure for corporations.
So maybe if you know an attorney, maybe ask them for referrals on who would be the best for what
Yeah,
you're
if you know or you don't know, you call an attorney's office if you don't have one in your area, and say, I'm about to build a company.
Yeah.
I want to know what risks are at stake. I need to talk to an attorney. And you talk to him and say, I'm worried about my risks. Can you refer me to? And you get to a point where you try to get 2 or 3 people to give the same name, and all of a sudden you're fine. Like, I feel very confident with my will and trust attorney, just as a shout out to Gina Gadke.
Yeah.
The reason I feel very comfortable with Gina Gadke is 2 separate financial planners, 1 CPA that I work with, and 2 insurance agents individually all referenced her for the best will and trust attorney in San Antonio.
That's awesome.
So
and she was fabulous. She did
ours.
You
used her too. Great.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's the point is don't sidestep, take the easy step, fail to research, don't ask questions.
Yeah.
First person you talk to, you go with. Like, this is an area that's really important to understand is what do I really have at stake? Like, I'll give you just an example a bit with real estate that's so interesting in why I do what I do in Texas. And I'm specific to Texas rental property real estate. So just, you know, if you're a different state, you know, keep in mind local jurisdictions matter. So, in Texas, I was asking my insurance agent, my attorney, what's better? Should you have a limited liability partnership on my rental properties? Should I have an insurance company or whatever? And what's interesting is I had 4 separate people tell me, dude, get the biggest, fattest umbrella policy you possibly can. I said, why? They said, look, it's dollar for dollar the cheapest, right? So you can get a couple $1,000,000 of umbrella policy for literally less than $1,000 in Texas. And the whole idea is that if somebody sues you for stubbing their toe, falling down the stairs or whatever in your rental property, that the insurance company has way better and more valuable and expensive attorneys than you can afford.
Okay.
And so unless you do a gross negligence, commit fraud, like literally your inspector calls you and says, hey, dude, your fire alarms are not working, replace them. You're like, fuck it, I want to save $20. And then it burns down and kills somebody. Like that's what's what gross negligence is. So just fix the damn fire. Like when people tell you to fix stuff, fix it. Then the reality is if that you're above reproach, like you're doing what's supposed to be done and you have a property manager that's living up to what they're supposed to do and you're inspecting and fixing and all that stuff, then home renter litigious member of society can sue all they want, but they got to go through $3 or $5 million of losses from an insurance company that's going to fight like hell before they can ever touch my assets, right?
All right.
So gross negligence is just like, here's an idea. Just fix shit that they tell me to fix, right?
Yep.
So that's an idea of what's the risk, what's possible, what could you really lose, and then just decide what's the best way to hedge against it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this as like kind of a final wrap-up question. So if you are going to your face. Okay. I'm laughing because he just flipped over his paper and he has 4 more bullet points. So we'll definitely
remember when you said you have about 3 more and I said, well, 3 to 8.
Oh, that's right. 3 to 8. Yes. Okay.
That's why.
So we'll definitely get to those.
I love catching you off guard. This makes me really happy.
In the next episodes. But let me ask you this question. So where we are this far,
I think it's thus far.
Thus far. I feel like that's so fancy. And it would be one of those words that I would like try to use, but then misuse it and sound like an idiot.
It's what volleyball mothers use. Thus, volleyball mothers, the bougie.
The bougie volleyball mothers. While they're picking out their panty shorts.
Don't even say that ever again. You're not allowed to say panty in your life. I don't want to hear it.
It is pretty much a terrible word.
You're digressing.
Okay. So
the question is, if I am a entrepreneur looking for investors, is it going to impress an investor more if I have gone through these 6 I love that.
bullet points?
Love that question. There's no doubt, 100%. If you can address, here's the research I've got, here's the field we're playing in, here's the need that we're solving, here's what clients want, here's where we fill the need,
here's
what our
strategy,
here's what our competitors charge, here's the players in the industry, here's how we can compete against them, here's the purpose and why it's different, here's the vision, here's the strategy to be profitable in a certain period of time, here's the attorney and here's the partnership that we're looking for, here's the CPAs who's got these references that you can talk to, here's the potential risk, you could lose all your money, here's the ways we could lose our money, here's the potential gains. For sure,
they're going to be like,
if you pitch me that way, 90% better chance of winning than
because it removes.
Let's go ahead and start a lawn mowing company.
Yeah, let's do it.
No.
Yeah.
Not interested.
Not interested.
Right.
So, because it basically makes it even easier for them to say yes, because now you're removing all the extra work that they're going to have to do.
Right.
In putting together the team and the attorneys and double checking. I'm assuming most investors are still going to want to lay eyes on a certain couple of things, maybe have some questions, maybe even have their own attorneys look at things. But, oh my gosh, you're handing them a
silver platter.
package
Well,
with
go
a
look
beautiful
at
bow on
go
it.
watch Shark Tank a few times. Like, yes, it's
Oh my-
sensationalized.
I
It's
love Shark Tank.
it's certainly sensationalized.
Me and
but
Weston love Shark Tank.
but the questions that they ask
Yes.
explain why they're billionaires.
It does.
Yeah, like
It does.
people come in with the most unbelievable presentations and they
Yes.
get shot down. And the reason why they're shot down, you understand. It's like, oh, that makes sense.
It makes sense.
Oh, wait, you've been selling this product for 6 years and you've never made $1 ever.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
why would I invest in that?
Or it's so expensive to make and you cannot sell it. The market does not support what you must sell it for
Exactly right.
to make even a little bit of a profit.
Yep.
I love it. Really what I think Shark Tank does a great job of is honing in on the financial stuff. Like they want to know like
Return on investment.
right. And like it's me and
100%.
Weston love that show. We love that show. It's so fun.
Weston? Really? That's
Weston
funny.
loves it. And he
Well,
loves to research all the sharks and figure out what their net worth is and
That's funny.
everything about it.
They're not doing bad.
They're not doing bad. Correct.
So we're going to wrap up this episode of Sigman Sense.
yes.
Like, subscribe,
This
please
was
share.
fun.
I hope this was helpful.
Share it. I think there's a little bit of all of us that have an entrepreneurial spirit.
Because you're Americans.
Yes, and because there's things that we love and there's things that we participate in that we believe could be better. And when you're really passionate about something and involved in something and you see a need and a way to make it better, it kind of sparks that interest.
Absolutely.
And so, if it's something that could grow legs and be great, listen to this episode, right?
Yep.
So fun.
And I got to tell you, I've got my first PS I've ever had of an episode. You ready? So pay attention. PS. Intellectual property matters. So
Yes.
we didn't talk about patent,
Yeah.
copyright, protect the idea
Yeah.
before you start pitching it. Get the website.
That is such a great point.
I did not say that out loud because I don't, you started talking. I was like, holy shit. There
Yeah.
so many of you listening have a fabulous idea.
Yeah.
It's funny to me how many people would call them bar games. You're having a few drinks talking.
Yeah.
You have like the best idea ever.
Yeah.
First thing you should do.
Remember the song we wrote?
Yeah.
Remember the song we
that
wrote while we were
forgot, that we sent to Corey? But you go to GoDaddy and go buy the website.
Yeah, they're like 99 cents. I mean, it's so easy.
If it's not bought already.
If it's not purchased,
it's super
absolutely.
valuable.
Yeah.
But go buy the website. Go get a copyright. Go get a patent if it's a widget or something that can be patented.
Yeah.
But that's the PS of this episode. That if
Great
it's something
point.
like that, go copyright or patent. Like get that intellectual property protected before you start pitching, because people will steal your shit.
Yeah.
But yes, I didn't mean to digress there, but
No, that's perfect.
it's super,
That's perfect.
It's super important.
So next episode, we'll finish our we have 4 more bullet points.
Yep.
So stay tuned for that. If you want to ask us questions, if you want to tell us more about your experiences, comment, tell us we are great, tell us we suck. We love all of that, believe it or not. And you can do that at sigmansense@gmail.com and also follow us on all of our social channels. And thanks for listening.
Until next time, we'll see you on Sigman Sense. Bye, guys.
Cheers.